Hello, everyone, and welcome back. With Easter Sunday around the corner, we are getting into spirituality and religion and how it impacts our lives and the world. Plus, we discuss the celluloid closet and the importance of all people being able to see themselves in media. Get ready for lots of yapping about church camp, ice cream cakes, and MTV, and so much more. I'm Sean Milhouse,
And I'm Asher Morgan.
and this is Collect Your Thoughts. Guess who's back? Back again. Ashy's back. Tell a friend.
Tell your friends.
Ashy, you're back.
Hey, I am.
How's it going? Fresh dew, too, by the way. Got a
I know,
nice,
right?
fresh cut. You're so
You know how to
hip
do
and
it up nice for
trendy.
you.
Just for me, not for
Just for you.
anyone else.
Maybe.
Oh, okay. We'll just keep
No.
that quiet. Hey, well, how are you, Asher? How has it been since we haven't seen you since, like, I guess November? I haven't seen you since then either. I mean, this is the first time we've seen each other since your
Yeah.
last episode.
I've been living under a rock.
What
Or
kind of
trying
rock?
to.
Oh, good
I
luck.
bought it exclusively from Patrick Star.
Does he sell rocks?
No.
Okay.
But he
Well,
lives under one.
I know. I mean, we all should. Patrick Star really is probably what we should all be aiming for right now.
Just obliviousness.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like hanging out in the ocean all the time. Sounds like a
Happy,
good time.
unaware.
Unaware, unencumbered by the madness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
So, do you think that Patrick Star is aware that it is going to be Easter Sunday? And if so, do you think he practices Christianity?
I do not. I don't think they have like religious holidays the way we do in Bikini Bottom.
What do they just follow like a moral code, or are there strict like seaside laws, or am I getting too deep with this?
I think it's kind of a follow your heart, this type situation. Like they do all, for the most part, seem to be carrying some type of ethical or value system, but
I think that's fair. So I wanted to talk about spirituality and I guess religion connected to that because it is going to be Easter Sunday. And I grew up in the Catholic Church, so Easter was definitely something that was a whole thing. Even I remember when Lent, which is the 40 days from Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday, I remember thinking, God, this is such a long time. Like my concept of time as a kid of 40 days was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be forever until Jesus rises again.
I mean, imagine how Jesus felt in the desert. Just 40 days.
Exactly. I thought in this being Easter Sunday coming up, I wanted to reflect on what is spirituality mean to us? How does it show up in our work with clients? Where have we gone maybe from how we were raised to where we're at now? And just kind of get into it. So before we really do that, I wanted to go over some stats that I found from the Pew Research Center, which they did a 2023-2024 religious landscape study. And they found that the Christian share of the population after years of decline has actually been relatively stable since 2019. And that people who were religiously unaffiliated, while it was rising rapidly for decades, has apparently leveled off, at least temporarily, as they say in the study. At present, according to the study, 62% of U.S. adults describe themselves as Christians. 40% are Protestant, 19% are Catholic, and 3% are other Christians. 29% are religiously unaffiliated, with 5% are atheists, 6% are agnostic, and 19% identify religiously as nothing in particular. Which I think is interesting. Just winging it. Yeah, like maybe that's the SpongeBob gang right there.
Maybe,
so so another interesting stat was that belong to religions other than Christianity, with 2% are Jewish and 1% each are Muslim, Buddhist, or Hindu, with all these figures are rounded up. And large majorities of Americans have a spiritual, supernatural outlook. For example, 86% believe people have a soul or spirit in addition to their physical body. 83% believe in God or universal spirit. 79% believe there is something spiritual beyond the natural world. And 70% believe in heaven, hell, or both. But in future years, we may see further declines in the religiousness of the American public for several reasons, such as young adults are far less religious than older adults. No recent birth cohort has become more religious as it has aged. And okay, this is the wording that they used in this, which it just is interesting. The stickiness of religious upbringing seems for anybody who's not watching, Asher just made the best. Asher makes the best reaction faces. Like if Asher were on reality television, Asher would have so many memes of their face. It would be incredible.
You can
Um,
meme me for the show, it's fine.
I mean, don't throw me with a good time. All right, that's going on the Insta. Uh,
Yes.
I can't. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is. All the ideas are flooding me right now. It's great. The stickiness of it is a gross. I do not like that phrase, but basically, it's
Mhm,
saying your want or desire to maintain your religion. Basically, that is those upbringings of being raised that
mhm.
way, they decline as people get older compared with older people. Fewer young adults who had a highly religious upbringing are still highly religious as adults. And it shows that the stickiness of a non-religious upbringing seems to be rising, which I think is really interesting. But I also, though, I in my life, my family, the school I went to Catholic schooling from preschool through my senior year of high school. So I was very insulated in that world. So I don't think I had much understanding of all the different religions and people. So I definitely am biased just from that experience. But I'm curious for you, Asher, what are your spiritual beliefs? And maybe talk about where did they maybe start from as you were
Mhm,
raised, if there were any, and
mhm.
where are they now?
Yeah, so I was raised Southern Baptist, and I
Woo
grew up in I know, right? I grew up in a really small town in Northeast Arkansas. I think our population at the time was like 3,000 people, maybe.
Wow.
And, like, the First Baptist Church in our town was where the majority of people went,
Mm,
and I remember being peripherally aware of other religions, like, there was a Catholic church in town,
mhm,
and for the people outside of Northwest Arkansas, this reference won't make any sense, but I kinda grew up in the Farmington to Fayetteville, and
mm,
so, like, there was a town that was really that close that was bigger, that had, other denominations and other churches, and I do remember hearing a lot of the, like, stereotypes about all the different ones and just
mm,
the things that some religions practiced that ours didn't and some that yeah, and I do feel like I got a lot of good out of it.
mm,
I do find that the stickiness statistic to be interesting, and I get it because I feel like I too have experienced this to where the religion that I was raised in has not stuck.
yeah,
And I have a lot of questions and a lot of issues, which I always had a lot of questions. I was that kid, which I'm sure is not shocking to anyone that I work with or know.
no,
But just a lot of questions about like why certain things were the way that they were. And then for me personally, growing up Southern Baptist, I've seen the Baptist religion used to disenfranchise so many people and experienced it in my own way,
mhm,
more around like my parents' divorce and like witnessing how the church responded to other people that got divorced more so than like I wasn't out when I was in my like childhood home. Like that
yeah,
wasn't even a factor, but there were some like negative messaging that I did receive around like being gay and homosexuality and like being transgender wasn't even a thing.
oh
We didn't have
gosh, yeah,
non-binary language in the 80s and
no,
90s. And it's just kind of evolved into contrary to semi-popular belief. I just try not to be an asshole to people.
amen.
Um and like I even saw something the other day that was like the golden rule is not really in effect. of, like, the treat other people the way that you wanna be treated, because we just don't do that
No.
anymore,
No.
and at least collectively, we've just become more and more individualistic, and so it's like, in any situation in my life, it's just, like, not being a jerk. I would say that I kinda tiptoe the line of agnostic that dabbles in Buddhism. Like, I do think that there
Mm,
are energy forces out there that are bigger than us. I
mhm.
don't have any presumption as to what those are. But I don't believe in the concepts of heaven and hell. I don't, like, any more that I was raised with. And I mean, some of the good that I got out of it was a sense of community and showing up for your people and, you know, giving. But one of the reasons why I put distance is that in hindsight, I was able to see that, like, that giving was conditional,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of where I broke away, is like, no, if I'm gonna do this for you, I'm gonna do it for you. And that kind of comes from my mom. My
Mm,
mom carried that of like, if I'm gonna give to you, I'm giving, whether it was money, time, if she knew how to make something, whether it was food or craft or something like that, she just gave and she didn't expect anything in return. But the system as a whole did expect a lot in return. And I also watched that system turn on her. And I was like, mm-mm, nope, I'm out. And
yeah.
like, and she continued to go. She still does.
Wow.
And like, it's very foundational to her. And we've had a lot of interesting conversations over the years. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of where it's at for me, is I just try to be a good person. I don't succeed at that every day and in every scenario, but
Sure.
when I don't, trying to take accountability for it, which I think is another reason why maybe that stickiness isn't happening, is because there's a lack of accountability when bad things happen.
Yes.
Or like if we make a mistake, things like that, there's not that like, you know what? I messed that one up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And like, and then using this book that's been translated and translated and translated over and over again to justify like why we do
And, like,
kind
drastically changed in its
yeah.
translation over time.
But then also so dismissive of like what you said, like other religions may have really small percentages. And
Mhm.
like one of the questions that I always had growing up is like, why is ours any better than
Yes.
anybody else's? Like, why do we
Why are
know
we the
everything?
chosen one? Yeah.
But the church up the street is not, and then they
Right.
also think they're the chosen ones and we're messed up. Like it was just, I was like, I don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
um, and then
Yes. And that
yeah.
conflict with, we're taught, at least I was taught in our faith, that God loves everyone, God will love you always. But then, like you said, wait, so unless you're not on his team
Mhm.
in that, I guess, league of
Mhm.
whatever faith you're a part of, that's a really strange concept, I think, for a kid to hear because it does go against the foundation of he is all loving and all good, but except for da, 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 and a huge laundry list of
Mhm.
reasons that actually, no, not
Yeah.
really.
Well,
How
and
does
like
that not
the
fuck people up,
yeah, and if he's all knowing and all loving, how does he let certain things happen that are really, really, really bad? Like
Yes.
both collectively and things that individuals experience.
But that's
Yeah.
interesting that you said that because I remember when I went to 8th grade, which is a typically the around that time when you do confirmation in the Catholic Church, and that was going to be coming up, and our dog Midnight, who is the best dog ever. She was a mix between a Labrador and a Cocker Spaniel, and she was all black
Mhm.
and just had these big, beautiful brown eyes. She's just, ugh, I miss her so much. She was such a great dog. Anyway, I guess something happened. I think there was a thunderstorm or something, and she ran up our back porch and ended up I don't know if breaking her leg or something happened. Anyway, she had to wear a cast. Well, while wearing that cast, a brown recluse got in and
What?
basically her one of her legs had to be amputated. And this shocked my system so bad because I remember telling my mom I don't think I can do this because in what world would they allow this amazing dog to have this happen? Like, especially in something so freakishly horrible situation, especially, I think anything just I had no idea what her quality of life was going to be. And, I had
Mhm.
no experience being around someone with a lost limb, let alone a pet. And so Anyway, I did eventually just go through with it because I think it would have felt more like, I would have felt maybe more like an outcast if I hadn't gone through with it because everybody else in my group was gonna do it. Of course, now I don't practice any of that at all, but it is that point of why, if these things are true, why is that true? And I don't know. It's a mind fuck.
Yeah. Well, and I
Yeah.
mean, thinking about confirmation, like, I mean, I've been baptized twice
Oh,
and
wow.
because the first time I was
It
like,
didn't
yeah,
stick.
sure, I'm saved. And then, like, later I was at like a church camp and was like, I don't know if you've ever heard of like Cry Night.
No.
It's just like really intentionally emotional,
Oh.
and like the music is like in a way that's like really evocative. The sermon is usually like a little hellfire brimstony
Oh,
to where
God.
like you don't, but like it's meant to like intentionally elicit like very emotional responses. And like this is when a lot of like teenagers are like, yeah, like I'm accepting Jesus into my heart and like all of these, but it's like a very curated moment that happened at like every church camp I ever went to. And fun fact about me, I
Wow.
was at church camp every year on my birthday
Oh,
from 8 to
God.
18. Like,
From
so
what
a
to
decade,
18?
8. So like
Oh,
every year when I
God.
started doing church camp, it was just that week. And at the time, like I didn't care. Like
Right.
I was with all my friends.
Yeah.
Like we were usually somewhere, we were doing something fun. Like I got cookie cake. Like it was a great time.
Yeah.
Um, because like we weren't getting cookie cake at my house. That was expensive. Um, and but yeah, like I look back on it and I'm just like, none of my friends did that. Like,
Mhm.
but at the time I didn't care. But like there was at every year there was always that like very intentional, and like sometimes you're cutting up in your kid and like you're kind of immune to it,
Sure.
but it can get you. If you want to be a little disturbed, you can look up Cry Nights
Oh my
on TikTok.
gosh.
But
Wow.
yeah, it was meant to. And so like I got baptized again after that. Um,
Sorry.
but
I mean, it is really weird
it
though,
was
like
just like the first time
yeah.
wasn't real. This time I mean it.
Yes. Which I
Like,
guess is technically what, like, confirmation is for us, is that we're like, "Well, now that I'm older, I am making this commitment that my parents
yeah,
already made for me."
correct.
And, to save me from my original sin,
Hmm.
as
Of
how they
being
put it.
born.
Of being born, right? Like, exactly, you're just
Non-consensually.
I
I
mean, just
entered into
shit
this
like
world
that.
against I did not consent to this.
Yes.
And I'm already
Oh,
bad from day one. Like, what?
yes. It yes. I mean, that's what I mean, like, it's just so and I get it, they're like, "Well, Jesus died for your sins," but which is also I don't know, the whole thing, it just yeah, getting even thinking about it, I get a lot of weird feelings about it. I'm curious about when you mentioned that you don't believe in heaven or hell, do you
Mm-mm.
have any thoughts of any kind of afterlife? Or is it just like, "Nope, we're dust and we just, go back to the ground?"
I mean, I think this is where some of my spirituality comes from. It is that, but it
Mhm,
feels very spiritual to me of like we came from the earth, we returned to the earth, kind
mhm,
of like this full circle giving back moment. But I feel like in terms of the soul that it just kind of ends.
mhm,
Like, and that we're not, I don't know that I believe that we're consciously aware
mhm.
of what our loved ones are doing. And but then at the same time very much so believe that if you feel a loved one in a symbol, like whether it's a bird or a butterfly or
Some kinda sign.
whatever, yeah, that like your feelings about that are valid because it brought you into a place of being with them. But I
Yeah.
don't know that I believe that like our souls inhabit things
Mm,
like that. I don't know, it's
I
very
like to imagine
existential.
it. I that is where I think I got to a point, I don't know if it was in college or, I don't know, over time, but I basically maybe this is just me being overly convenient in my thinking, but I really wanna believe that whatever we believe is where we end up. Like,
Mhm.
if that's what you want, then that's what you get. What I want is what I want. Like, I mean, as long as we are like, I don't know, I guess and see, I'm already thinking that place. I was like, as long as we're living a good life. And I'm like, well, and that's kinda shitty too, 'cause it
Mhm.
does make it sound like, unless you're earning your Christ points, you're not going to get to the good place. And
Mhm.
that is how they scare the shit out of kids. I mean, that's
Mhm.
what bringing up hell and the idea of
Yep.
hell and that it's hot and which, I mean, that's a nightmare. And,
Can we talk about the fact
sweaty
that it is
underneath
March
forever.
20th and it is 90 degrees outside?
I mean,
0 stars. Do not recommend.
yeah, no, wild.
Um,
It's exactly. Well, I swear, like the older I get, I'm like, oh, this is the bad place, which
yes.
is so sad.
But I mean, yeah, that concept of like you're just gonna be on fire forever,
Oh, ugh.
like swimming in a lava lake and unable to get out of it.
Especially
Uh,
if you have thoughts of thirsting after same-sex counterparts.
or
Yeah.
touching yourself.
Or touching
like,
yourself or
like, just
right.
like, but I mean, but then also, and this was one of the reasons why I was like, I can't handle the hypocrisy of it, is because, we were at the church house every time the doors were open. Like, my mom
Mm.
was involved in so much stuff. My dad didn't want anything to do with it, which was an interesting dynamic. But we were there twice on Sunday, Wednesday nights. Like, then my
Oh, you
mom
were
was on
that
so
Wednesday
many.
night crew. That's a brand
Yeah.
new thing. We did not do that. At
Oh, I
least I didn't
loved
do
Wednesday
that.
nights. Wednesday night was youth night, and
Well,
like,
that's what I
so I
always
didn't have to
heard.
go to I didn't have to go to big church.
Ah,
We
fair.
just got like all the teenagers got to hang out, and my best friend's dad led it, and he was a really cool guy.
Oh, that's good.
And so like it was a good time, but part of it was like being taught that like if you do X, Y, and Z, or if you think X, Y, and Z, and like all these things, yeah, like you're essentially going to the bad place, or you have to atone for that. But then slowly, the older I get, like in group situations, I listen more than I talk.
Yeah.
And so it's like learning about like, oh, well, these people are doing this and these people do this. And it's like, it's the things that they're telling us not to do.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
it was like a secret. It wasn't like they weren't owning it. There was shame attached to it. And so it was like
mhm.
very secretive and hush hush and like the rumor mill. And things like that. And I don't know. I saw a meme the other day that was like prayer requests or just church gossip, and it has really stuck with me.
I love that. I mean,
because
it kinda is.
because it kind of is. It's like, here's all the stuff going on in my life. Please pray about it.
Yeah, yeah.
But the hypocrisy of it was one of the things that like really got to me. And for me, my parents' divorce did play a really big role in that, because my mom was very active. Like, she was involved in so much.
Mhm.
And my dad never even came to church. And
That's actually
it
same
was
with my
like,
dad, yeah.
when they got divorced, the whole congregation took my dad's side. And I'm like, he doesn't even go here. Like, what do you mean? Like, my mom is here every time.
Doesn't
Like,
even go here.
she taught Sunday school. Like, she was involved in all this stuff.
That
And it
is
was
so
just like
shitty.
completely shunned. And I will give her credit. And we
Fucking
have talked about it, and
patriarchy.
I've thanked her for that. Yeah, right. That
Mhm.
like, I was like, I'm done going to big church. I was like, I can't be in the room with these people. And I was like 14, 15.
Yeah.
I still went to youth group stuff because I wanted to go on those birthday trips, because they were, I mean, listen,
You wanted your cookie cake.
but they also went to like the beach, and we
Oh,
could
that's
get
cool.
into like saviorism and things like that, because there was a lot of that involved in these trips.
Mm.
Of like, here's a bunch of white kids going into inner city neighborhoods to pick up trash.
Wow, such
And
good kids doing that for all those brown and black kids and
oh my
people.
God.
They need us to
And
save them.
like,
Not.
but it was like, I got my cookie cake, but then there was always one day that we were going to get to go to the beach. And like, that was an anomaly for me, because we didn't take family vacations growing up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
our vacations were trips to visit family, not a
Yep.
vacation.
Yep. Yep.
And so it was like, it's my birthday. I'm with my friends. I'm going to get my cookie cake, and I'm going to get to go to the beach one day. And
Yeah.
so I was like, I'm going to stay involved in youth group, but I'm not. I was like, I'm done. I was like, I can't
Yeah.
watch them treat you like this. She continued to go, but I was like, I refuse. And to her
Yeah.
credit, she was like, okay, like, I'm not going to
Wow.
make you.
That's nice.
And
That's good to hear.
yeah. And I mean, I still got a lot of, I'm concerned about your soul. later on
Of
down the
course.
line, but, you know, because gay, but
And you're like, "And that's not even the beginning of it."
the Bible's pretty gay, mom, but we're not gonna talk about that, like, so,
Uh, so
but
how about with clients? How often or how little does spirituality and or religion come up for you and your
mhm.
work?
I would say it gets talked about minimally weekly,
Mhm.
because I do have a handful of clients that were raised with, like, either very entrenched in the church like I was, like my
Yeah.
parents were, or their parents were, like, clergy, and
Mhm.
so they've, had to unpack that and that kind of breakaway, and then every now and then, like, clients are always, like, I shouldn't say every now and always in the same sentence, that's contradictory, but, um, it does come up where they're just kind of exploring, like, who they are and what their beliefs are and
Mhm.
where,
Mhm.
for some of them, religion fits into that
Yeah.
of, and I think right now, even though there's not, like, a massive surge in religion, I do think people are searching for something to believe in.
Oh, yeah. For
And
sure.
sometimes religion is that. And,
Mhm.
I usually end up doing, like, values, like, what are the values of this either organization, denomination against your own?
Yeah.
And, like, where do they line up? Where do they deviate? Are you okay with that? Or it's the, like, I experienced a lot of trauma in the church that I
Mhm.
grew up in, and I need to process that. How does it show up for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think you kind of teed it up perfectly, which is usually it's from the religious trauma lens is how it
Mhm.
gets brought up, which I mean, that will need to be a whole episode. We're going to bring our girl Rebecca on. That is like
Fingers
her
crossed.
that is that is her what's the saying for that? Like her bread and butter. That's where it comes up the most is in people who either like you mentioned, they grew up in the church in some form of a meet with people who Southern Baptists, we meet with Mormons, we meet with Christians of all types, and these people are still a lot of times reckoning with everything they were told because they do that's one thing that church does, which is I think unfortunately also really used in some really terrible ways, which is just repeating the same messaging over and over again. And it's impossible for that not to get soaked into your brain in some way and believe that in a foundational way. If you've always known it to be that way, that if you leave the church, you're bad. If you are queer, you're bad. If you have sex, you're bad, except for all these people doing all those things. And not talking about it, but doing it anyway and
Mhm.
finding that out. So I would definitely say I have some that their faith is a positive thing. I feel like the ones that I do work with who have a positive relationship with faith is because they go to churches or places that are very open in what they celebrate and embrace, such
Mhm.
as like the Episcopal Church or Unitarian or things like
Mhm.
that, that are much more open minded about that. And they really just celebrate, I think, the positive parts of Jesus and Christ and the Bible and
Mhm.
things like that, as opposed to all of the condemnation and fear-based tactics that get
Mhm.
used up. So
Yeah.
with religious holidays such as Easter being present, do you get like any kind of emotional stir up when big like milestones in the year come up? Like since I'm not as familiar with your religion that you were raised in, like Christmas, for example, or any
Mhm.
other holidays, do those religious overtones and undertones still show up for you? Or do you have a longing for the community based part or the celebration part in any way?
No, I don't. Um,
Yeah.
I have a lot of, like, I don't know, I guess this is where we'll talk about this here. I have a lot of issues with American holidays in general, like, I don't think they
Mm,
mean anything or they're
mm.
rooted in something horrific that, like, white men
Yes.
in history have done.
And capitalism.
Yeah, well, and that's where I was going with that. I feel like all of our religious holidays don't have the meaning that they once did because of capitalism.
Mm,
It's become
you're
like, and
so
I'm thinking
right.
about Easter became like much more about like what's in my Easter basket and like
Yeah.
am I getting gifts and like And I can even remember growing up, there was a really big deal around the outfit. Like, you got, like, a
Oh,
different
yeah.
I have a lot of, like, Easter dress trauma. It was a really big deal. My mom
All
started
about the pastels.
letting me wear pants and, like, a pastel button-up, which she did
That's
eventually
a big
do, and
deal.
it was pretty big deal, but I don't know, my mom picked and chose her battles and, like, again, appreciate those, but it's more like it's about the stuff instead
Mhm.
of the moment. Like, even the religious side of it sometimes is about, like, "Oh, I need the perfect nativity scene," or, like,
Mhm.
you know, to put on the mantle, and it's not so much about the moment, it's about, like, all the stuff that we can buy that doesn't make us happier,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it doesn't actually hold any meaning. And so it's like
Mhm.
we probably moved on from St. Patrick's Day, which I know is not a religious holiday, like, onto Easter, but, like, Easter hasn't even happened yet, and the next holiday stuff is probably already out.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Like, you know, there's still Easter basket stuff out and things like that, but it's like, by the time this airs, that stuff will be long gone, and it's,
Yeah.
you know, within a day or 2. So, no, it doesn't stir anything up for me. Sometimes it does for my clients, but it's also more around the presumed family obligations than the religious
Mm.
aspects of it, and sometimes it does require, like, "Oh, I'm going to Sunday," like, I'm going to, you know, it was called a cantata when I was growing up. It was
Oh.
like the big Christmas concert. Like, the
Cantata.
yeah, fancy word of cantata.
I was gonna say that sounds, like, way more not white.
I mean, let's be honest. We're probably appropriating something. Um,
What? No, Jesus is a white dude. I don't know why you would say that.
white Jesus
White Jesus.
with his blonde hair, blue eyes. Um, so it's more just like those obligations that come up. I don't experience those anymore. So, like, thinking specifically about Easter, like with my kids, it was more like instead of baskets, we usually bought something to plant. And so it was
Mm,
like a new beginning because it's springtime and things like
yeah.
that. And so, like, get them like some plants that they can put in the flower bed, or like we planted an apple tree one year.
Oh, nice.
But aside from that, like, just like the majority of us, it was more about the capitalistic nature of it than
Yeah.
the religious ties of it. What does that look like for your family?
That's what I was gonna say is as you were saying all that, what was coming back to me is I really would the thing is I enjoyed going to church because it meant that I got to see my friends and also my cousins and, my aunts and things like that. And specifically with Easter, we would I think in my teen years, we would go to like the Saturday evening mass and they would do like a whole thing where they would basically go over the creation story and have like all these like chimes and cool effects and stuff
Mhm,
and we always had this cool little fountain in the church like whenever Easter would come like there would be this like faux like brook put in basically that had this water flowing in it. And I just remember like always just like listening to that sound in church when that time of year would come around. And I think this is what is so interesting is our church, like, and this is something I think is can be true for a lot of Catholic churches, is that there can be like also this side of it, which is very like some of the best partiers, enjoyers
mhm,
of the booze are Catholics, and that's definitely for sure in my family. And I remember like my aunt who would just like she'd make silly faces, or if somebody would like sing a bad note in church, like it would kind of just be this. You'd have to try not to have the church giggles, and
mhm,
and so like those parts, like that's what I appreciate were the inappropriate
mhm.
parts. And then
Yeah.
afterwards, we would go to Applebee's. And
Nice.
yes, and I was the chicken finger basket. Thank you. Honey mustard.
I
Yeah.
mean,
What?
we always went to Pancho's Mexican restaurant, where I also ordered the chicken finger basket.
Were we connected by chicken fingers in a past life?
Parts of us have always known one another. We were destined to find one another across time and space.
Oh, see, that's so galactic. Yeah, so like I have so I definitely have positive memories of it, but it wasn't because I was like, "Oh my gosh, God is so cool. Like, I can't wait to learn more about Jesus and listen to the stuff he preached and have to, especially in the
Mhm.
Catholic Church, it's get up, sit down, kneel, get up, sit down. I mean, truly, like, every time I go back for a funeral of a family member, it's just like that reminder of, like, God, this is what we did all the time. And also the
Mhm.
weirdness of, as an adult, listening to the, like, uh what is that called? Basically when you say something and then like the church then responds, like they'll be like blah 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 blah, and then everybody like says their line, and like how it this is if anybody's listening who is highly religious, I really try to mean this in the best way possible, but it sounds like a cult because
Mhm.
because it's really strange hearing like and people aren't speaking these call and response things from the priest to the parishioners. It people aren't saying it with like passion. They're like it's like they're droning. They're like it's just like a means to an end as opposed to really being in this moment of like spiritual connection. And so
Mhm.
I think that that's definitely something that is that once I realized that when I was like, wow, like if somebody walked in right now and they saw us doing this, that would look really kind of creepy, which I think is true for a lot of these things. But I'm curious if you think, Asher, are there benefits or costs or both of partaking in religious or spiritual beliefs? And if so, what would you say some of those are?
I mean, some of the benefits that I got out of it were that sense of community and that sense of if someone you know is struggling, you show up for them. Whether
Mm,
that's time, whether that's bringing food, like, can you schedule appointments for them? Can you go and pick up things for them so that they don't have to go?
yeah,
If something breaks around their home, do you have the skill set to fix it? And that kind of collectivism that I don't feel like we see
yeah.
that much anymore. However, now that I'm older, I do feel that a lot of the ways that it was done when I was growing up was rooted in this like savior complex of
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm going to swoop in and save the day, as opposed to just, I genuinely care about you and I'm going to show up. I do feel like there was some of that and I did witness
Mhm.
that. And the other was there
Yeah,
as well. So I feel like that was probably the biggest and best takeaway that I got benefit
yeah,
wise. I mean, some of the like costs of it for me were just I don't remember processing identity and things like
yeah.
that. There literally wasn't a space. It was like you're just
Mhm.
assumed to be following this track. And so I remember really grappling with that. Like I really, really struggled with can I be a Christian? Can I be gay? And what does that look
Same.
like blended
Yeah,
blended together? Like I read books about it. This early days internet, that wasn't a thing. Like I think one of the costs was like I remember trying to, I mean, if I can tell like a personal story,
sure.
remember I used to struggle visiting my dad. Like he and I had kind of a tenuous relationship and I knew that he would buy me like whatever alcohol I wanted. I wasn't 21 yet, but he would buy it for me, but I didn't like it because it was an escape. Like it's how I dealt with having to be at his house and be around him.
Um,
And I remember trying to talk to somebody at the church that I was attending at the time about that, of like, "Hey, I'm going to see my dad. I know that alcohol is an option." And then I have much different beliefs about alcohol then than I do now as well. But
sure.
I was like, I don't like that I do this. And instead of like being compassionate, which you would think church leaders would be, the response was, "I'm really disappointed that that's how you deal with being around him." And I was
Ooh,
like, "Cool, done talking to you," did like a 180 and walked away. But it was like I
damn.
reached out to support, and I feel like a lot of people encounter that where they're exploring things or they're struggling with things or like
Yes.
I didn't like the way that I was handling that and was looking for other ways to navigate it.
Yeah.
And just maybe even the support of being heard now that I'm a therapist and understand that concept, but to immediately be met with like, "You're a disappointment for that." And I was like, "Cool, deuces, I'm out." And I
Yeah,
stopped
thanks for
going to that
judging.
church.
Bye.
Yeah, and like stopped going. to
Yeah.
like, and I was in college. And so I think it's that. I think sometimes people reach out and are looking for connection and support, and they're met
Mhm.
with, I truly believe that that was that person's kind of template that they filter
Yeah.
through the world, and not didn't necessarily have anything to do with church or religion, but those two things are forever blended for me. And so I think it's that. And, now I just try to surround myself with people that try to be a good person,
Yeah.
and are not necessarily, I mentioned this earlier, not looking for that conditional, you showing up for me, because you know that I'm having a hard time or something like that, and not expecting anything in return, but knowing that eventually, due to the nature of our relationship, that will be reciprocated back to you. What about you? What are some of the like pros? I don't want to say pros and cons, but like,
I mean, essentially, that's what we're saying.
you know, things that you've
Yeah.
gained and things that,
Yeah, I
you know.
mean, I think one thing that you mentioned that I it comes up a lot with, especially people I work with, is it's really hard to find a group of people that believe in the same things as you, and I I wish that there was a more secular version of that that
Mhm,
I think felt, I don't know. I guess, like, I know we have bits and pieces of that, right? Like, we have interest-based things, we have political parties, we have, these different things, but there isn't a, "Hey, like, let's celebrate being good humans" group. That
mhm,
has nothing to do with, like, people can mention God, but it's not the center
yeah,
or whatever. And so, I think that that's something that when I work with people is that they will go, "Oh, I really wanna meet people. I just moved here and I don't know what to do." And a lot of times I'm like, well, especially in Arkansas, it's really hard to meet people a lot of times unless you're like a part of a church or you meet them through work.
mhm,
And or you if you're naturally from here, you might have a home base with that. But that, again, these are people moving here. So I think that that's always something that I wish that there was a stronger sense of community. I miss that part in terms of knowing people, them knowing me, and I did learn a lot from the church. I learned how I loved singing in church. I learned about good people, and there was many, many good people that I crossed paths with over time that truly I feel like held the best parts of the Christian message without also holding the parts that were very condemning. And it was
mhm,
almost like there was, for some of those people, there was that asterisk of, I'm aware that there's all these other things that we're supposed to believe, but it really doesn't work for me in terms of what I've heard about all the great parts of who God allegedly is. And so I think that that's, yeah, that's one of the hard parts is there isn't a built-in community, but also, the benefits though of no longer being in that though is that I have been able to form my own beliefs. I think that's a big, big, big one of it is I hear all the time, and I know I experienced it to some extent too in my own faith growing up, was, well, it's normal to have doubts, but don't don't stray too far. Don't dig into information too deeply
mhm,
because that, then you're asking too many questions, which felt very like a trap. Like, well,
mhm,
wait, you're saying it's normal to have these uncertainties about this whole thing I've been taught my whole life, but also you're basically denying, like, you're being a bad Christian or whatever by actually doing more research. And I know that that's not just a Christian thing. That's a lot of people have that from their religion that, you got to stick with the messaging, and if you don't, you're not a good member. Which to me, I'm like,
mhm,
well, then if the strength of anything is pure loyalty just for loyalty's sake, like, I'm not going to fuck with that. No, like, it
mhm,
needs to be something that's giving to me and that I also feel good giving into myself. And
mhm.
but I do long for more community-based things that feel more connective.
I mean, it feels like I feel like I've seen this meme a lot lately of I'm just gonna start treating people like I'm in kindergarten and walking up and being like, "Hey, I like your shoes. Do you wanna be friends?"
Yes, I fucking love
Except
that.
the introvert in me would never.
Correct, same.
Like, but I want to be that person.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, unless you have I spend a lot of time with my clients going like, "What are you interested in?
Mhm,
Like, what do you like to do?" Because there
mhm,
are, like you can usually find groups and pockets of people that are doing that. I mean, it is really hard because, like, I've had that conversation with clients too of like, "Hey, I just moved here." Some of them are okay going to churches, a lot of them
mhm.
are not,
Yeah.
and they're like, "I don't know how to meet people."
So that is our yapping about spirituality and Easter and all that. And I guess that it's important for we definitely support people doing what is right for them. And we also want to encourage people to not be afraid to ask questions, to not be afraid to look around, to really make sure that something works for you because there's there's only so much life that we are given, and I think it's really super important to feel like you are living a life that you belong in, and sometimes faith and religion especially does not really allow for that. The next topic I wanted to get into is sort of connected in the sense of how we see the world and how, we came from this faith perspective just now, but I came across this meme that it sort of stopped me in my tracks because I was like, oh shit, like that's really, really interesting. I thought I'd share that here. So the meme came from this is gonna be a lot of words thrown together, so just bear with me, people. The meme came from a person on Instagram who shared it, and that person's handle, I always like giving credit, is at the dragonfish.dark. And they shared a meme created by somebody known as Hans Weed Van, and their at is at Obi Worm Kenobi. And basically, the meme says, everyone, why do you always have to make everything gay? Me points to this quote from the Celluloid Closet, which the Celluloid Closet is a 1995 documentary directed by Rob Epstein and Jeffrey Friedman about the history of LGBTQ plus representation in Hollywood. Anyway, the quote that is alluded to says the following: all the reading I was given to do in school was always heterosexual. Every movie I saw was heterosexual. And I had to do this translation. I had to translate it to my life rather than seeing my life, which is why when people say to me, your work is not really gay work, it's universal. And I say, up yours, it's gay. And that you can take it and translate it to your own life is very nice. But at last, I don't have to do the translating. You do. And I
Mhm.
thought, "Damn, like, that is it just I even though I know this in my bones that this is what I've been doing my whole life, I didn't think about it in this way of how refreshing it is to now be an adult in 2026, despite all the atrocities and the horrors and the things that are going on that are trying to undo a lot of this. We now have these stories. We now have the narratives that are written from the perspective of whether it's marginalized populations based off race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, so on and so forth. So, in finding that, I'm curious, Asher, for you, what are some examples of narrative translations that you have yearned for more of throughout your life?
I think for me, it was groundbreaking for me when the concept of non-binary entered the
Mm,
gender question or
yeah.
conversation, not question. And this I don't even feel like there's an adequate word for it in our language. I mean, I remember being mind blown that
Mm,
it that I can exist along a spectrum
yeah.
and not have to be one or the other.
Yeah.
And that was welcomed and accepted, and I have been able to don't ask me what they are because I can't list them off the top of my head, but, like, have been able to find, like, things to read or people to follow that are able to talk about those experiences and that, and,
Mhm.
I mean, to kinda bridge those 2 topics, I mean, even just having more content like, when I was navigating this 20 years ago,
Oh my
that
gosh.
of, like, how to bridge being a Christian and, like, queer.
Yeah.
Like, I came across a couple of books, but they were written from, like, the white male perspective
Mhm.
and, you know, of men that were in the church and, you know, married with kids and having kinda gay awakenings, but it was very limited of,
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, I am this thing, I can't take it away. I am a prime example of if you could pray it away, it would be prayed away," and it did not work. But then I was left with this "now what?"
Mm.
of, like, how do I bridge these 2 things? Because living where we live, and I mean, at the time, I was living in, you know, in less progressive parts of Arkansas, like, I feel like we're kind of in a bubble up here
Yeah.
sometimes, and I both love it and it feels weird,
Yeah.
because it feels almost like a different state sometimes,
Oh,
but
yeah.
not having those voices and also not having anybody to talk to
Yeah.
about that or even feeling safe going to the library and being like, "Hey, do you have any books on this?" Like,
Yeah.
even though now at 44, I believe, like, librarians are some of the, like, maybe could have helped me bridge that,
Yeah.
but I didn't know at the time that they were safe and, like,
Correct.
how to gauge if they were safe to do
Mhm.
that, and then, like, towns are small and, you know, not wanting, like, anybody to find out that, like, "Hey, Asher's at the library looking for books on X." But, yeah, I mean, I think for me, a lot of it was, like, identity and not
Mhm.
even just, like, sexual and gender identity, like, sexual orientation, gender identity, but just, like, identity development in general, growing up in a small
Mhm.
southern town of, like, books that even represented, like, "Hey, you can be outside the norm."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, like, growing up very much so felt like an outsider, like, I don't fit, like,
Yeah.
I don't belong here, like, and not
Right.
understanding. What about you? What do you wish that you've seen over the years or had
Ugh.
access to over the years?
I mean, I think that's one thing that my brain definitely cannot wrap around the fact all of the different stories in mainstream media that does allow or celebrate queer joy or even queer stories,
Mhm,
period. And so I remember as I was growing up that my favorite stuff to watch for a long time was in the 90s and early 2000s was MTV, because on
mhm,
MTV, you saw people of all walks of life. They had the real world, good real world. If you grew up in the
mhm,
90s, the real world was incredible reality television, like truly great TV. And that was my first real, I think, introduction to gay people. And also during award shows and stuff, they would have people that were very out and proud about being gay. There were shows about sexuality and spirituality and things that really did cater to young minds growing up. And so I'm grateful for what MTV used to be.
mhm,
And I definitely know that I long for that. And so I think a lot of times, especially even in music, there were so many times where I still don't think there's a lot of it, but I have wanted more, like, hearing dudes talk about wanting other dudes. Like,
mhm,
I think maybe that's subconsciously part of why I love female singers is because they were talking about dudes, and I wanted that too, but also they were pretty and all that stuff, which just
mhm,
sounds so gay. Um, so yeah, I just yearned for it not to be this, like, taboo thing. Like, I remember when I was, I think, a freshman in high school, and me and my friends, we would go to Best Buy, and I bought the first season VHS set of Queer as Folk, the US edition, and I mean, that's a spicy show. That was one of the first shows that really showed gay men living very, like, boldly in themselves, and it's very
mhm,
sexual, and I think honestly it would be huge now, like, if they
mhm.
did it right, but they tried to do a reboot, but it didn't work out anyway. That's neither here nor there.
I mean, I
And
kinda feel
so
the same way about the L Word. Like,
right? Oh my
the
gosh.
OG, like, the newer one
Yes.
didn't even compare.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So
Yeah, I remember watching it in my room and, like, I think my dad came in, he was, like, collecting trash, and I remember being like, "Ugh," But, like, that just shows how cool my dad was. Is he was like, "Oh, what are you watching?" Thank God it wasn't one of the really, like, sexual scenes, and I was like, "Oh, it's a show queer as folk." And my dad was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, yeah, I've heard good things about that," and got my trash and left the room because that's just who he was. Like, he truly did, like, he didn't care about that shit. I'm very, very incredibly lucky that I had parents that were always open and warm about I mean, we never talked about, if you're gay
Mhm.
one day, like, that wasn't at all a conversation you had, at least when we were
No.
growing up. And so, yeah, like, just seeing that you can date and that it can be a good thing and that it's not just sinful to be queer, like, I yearn for that so much.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's definitely something that now, like, I mean, we just talked about, Heated Rivalry a few episodes ago and, like, how
Mhm.
it's so wild to me that a show like that is what it is when
Mhm.
me as a kid, like, I think that would have been trashed at my school because why are they letting these, sinful storylines play out on television or whatever? But
Right.
here we are,
Well, I
despite
mean,
all the other things.
I know that, like, she's, like I don't know if we completely label her as problematic at this point, but I am just old enough to remember, like, Ellen's downfall.
Oh,
Like,
I remember that
I
very
remember that
clearly.
episode where she came out and
Yep.
then all of the cascade from that and kind of slowly watching her, like, rebuild a career
Yeah.
after that moment, but also remember, like, how groundbreaking that moment was.
Huge.
And, like, I know it cost her everything for a period
Yep.
of time, like, but that being,
Yeah.
and as soon as I flipped it back to you, I immediately thought of music because music is not something that I was, like, allowed to explore, really. Like,
Mhm.
growing up, it was country or gospel, and that was it. And, 80s, 90s country, like, we didn't have a whole lot of, like, queer
Oh god, yeah.
representation, like the overt
There were icons, but they were
heterosexism.
not they were not inherently gay icons.
No. No, 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 no. But, like, I mean, I have this memory of, like, my best friend's mom, like, my best friend had gone to Best Buy and bought, like, TLC's Crazy Sexy Cool, and, like, I have this memory
Uh-huh.
of my best friend's mom breaking that CD in half because it had the word "sexy" in it,
That's
and, like, she didn't even
sacrilegious.
I know.
Sorry, I'm just like that was like one of my favorite albums in the '90s. Oh my god, sorry.
Yeah, but it
Yeah,
was like she had no idea what any of the songs were, she did not care. It
yeah,
was just like, this is and, like, being there and witnessing, like, my best friend's devastation
yeah,
because she loved that album, just seeing all of that, and, like, I remember how impactful it was for me being in late college, early grad school for the L Word to come out, and, like, it didn't seem real based on, like, LA to, like, Central
sure.
Arkansas.
Oh yeah.
But, like, there was a little cohort of us, and we did, like, a watch party, like, every week,
Oh
because you
wow.
couldn't binge it,
No.
and it was and, like, just riding the roller coaster of emotions of these relationships and getting to see the healthy and the unhealthy and everything that came along with it, and that these types of
Yeah,
relationships were possible because we were all navigating what that looked like for us,
yeah, yeah. I
and
remember when I was in college. I think it was my junior year. It was when Brokeback Mountain came out,
Mhm.
and of course, there's so many jokes about Brokeback
I
Mountain, but
can't quit
also
you.
but also, like, it was such a huge I mean, that was truly groundbreaking, especially due to the fact that, it had Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal, who were very much, like, the hot up and
Mhm.
coming actors, and but it was directed by Ang Lee, who is this really respected director, so there was, like, this convergence of people who were taken seriously, taking on stories that were, of course, the unfortunate gay tragedy trope that is in a lot of media. But I mean, to have that be a movie that should have won Best Picture, but was nominated for a ton of Oscars, it's so that was groundbreaking. And to know how controversial that even was is, I think, just such a sign of how different the world is now. Why is it? And this is going to sound silly. I think, obviously, I think this question is like a no brainer, but also I don't know how else to ask it. But why is it important to see non
Mhm.
traditional narratives in the world of media? And how does it impact our collective well being?
I mean, this is just an opinion, but, like, seeing yourself represented.
It's everything.
of like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, I know I spent so much time, especially being raised the way that I was raised and having no representations in any of the media that I consumed.
Yeah.
Like, you mentioned the real world, and I have, like, a funny story about my mom that I've been sitting here going like, "Can I tell this, or is that actually a microaggression on her part?"
I mean, we
But it
can
was
tell it and
so,
cut it
like,
out if you want.
well, it was so, like, pure on her part, but, like, I remember that, like, real world Miami and learning that, like, oh, all these restaurants and bars put a rainbow sticker in the window to let you know that it was safe, and, like, my mom stopped wearing a rainbow, like, lapel pin for the
Oh,
longest time,
wow.
but then when I came out to her, one of the things that she said was like, "Oh my god, I can wear my rainbow again," and it was just
Wow.
even though there's been, like, a roller coaster at times
Yeah.
in our understanding and conversations with her, like, in that moment, it was like, "Oh, I don't have to not wear my rainbow anymore because, like, now I can be an ally," but at the same time, she put it away because she didn't want anybody to assume that she was and I'm like,
Did she
"Mom,
just wear it
nobody
around the
thinks."
house?
No. It went in the drawer where secrets go. Okay.
Oh,
Um,
that's great.
but, like, to just see yourself, which,
Yeah.
like, as funny of an example as this kind of feels, it's the one that's coming up for me of, like, she's the man of, like do you remember that? Like, even though it was just, like, wanting to play sports, but, like, sports were really big for me, and, like,
Yeah.
that's been one of the biggest areas that I've seen representation is,
Mhm.
like, thinking about Abby Wambach and Megan
Mm.
Rapinoe and, you know, some of the WNBA stars, like Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, and, like, just seeing them, like, go to their partners and kiss them after a match or even just a hug, like,
Yes.
you know, and being like, "Oh, I don't have to hide that." And also, like, maybe there was a little bit to the stereotype, but also there are very much so, like, straight people on these teams too.
Correct.
And just navigating that and, like, sports and queer is probably a whole 'nother podcast topic,
Oh,
but, like
yeah. That'd be great.
but that was one of the biggest areas where I was looking for representation because it was like, "Can I enjoy these things?" You
Mhm.
know, and things like that, and there's also, like, an interesting religious overlap for me there too because, like, after I came out, it was like, "We don't talk about it," but the church was like, "Will you still be on our softball team?" Like, because we're a really good softball team and, like, there were a lot of lesbians on this softball team, but, like,
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think
um
that's so true too, is like looking back, I can definitely I think growing up now, I can be like, "Oh, that person I thought was a little off growing up, oh, they were probably just queer and they didn't feel like they could be openly queer."
Mhm,
Like, they were really good at certain things, like, yeah, like, usually it was in the music area, that's where you would see more of the colorful
mhm.
people, as they would maybe say, and,
Women's sports, theater, band,
yes,
like
yes, 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 yes. You know, it's so funny as you said that about how powerful that was for you to see that. I think that seeing the movie Love, Simon was
Mm,
incredibly impactful for me because it's what I wanted so badly growing up. Not only the experience of coming out and struggling with his sexuality and trying to figure that out, but like a teen romantic comedy that was
mhm,
about this thing. And after the movie was over, I remember just like crying in my car because it was so beautiful, the messaging of the movie and to think that there were kids who were growing up with this, like, I it made me go, "Oh my gosh, how lucky these people who are younger than me that they get an example in a mainstream studio-made movie of a boy falling in love with another boy," and that to me is like just knowing, gosh, I mean, I was well into my 30s at that point, and I remember it impacted me so much just seeing that.
I have
Right.
not seen Love, Simon.
Oh my gosh, I have it. We'll watch it.
Okay.
It's super cute. It's great.
But I
So yeah.
remember, like, I had a really and I mean, I'm not trans and I'm not black, but I remember having this, like, like, wash over me when I watched, like, Sex Education and the main
Mm,
character's, like, best friend fully started stepping in to his identity, and I don't know if they identify as trans or if it's just gender nonconforming, but
sure.
fully stepping into wearing makeup and, dressing in the way, but then also there was that moment where the main character didn't show up and their friend ended up getting, like, physically assaulted on a
Mm,
bus for how they were dressed, and, like, I think it's also, like, it highlights I think that gets overlooked sometimes.
yeah,
Like, yes, I love all the positive examples, but I think sometimes it gets overlooked the risks that we take just
every
trying to
day.
exist in day to day
Mhm.
sometimes, and I thought they did a really beautiful way of, like, showcasing that,
Yeah,
especially highlighting, like, the Black queer and how that individual was at a much higher risk
yeah,
than, the other cast members that were queer in that show. And just thought they did, like, a really beautiful way of depicting that, but then also the repair that came
mm,
later and, navigating, like, it's not easy to maintain, like, interpersonal relationships when you're exploring all these different things, and a
no,
lot of times we don't know how to repair, especially when we're younger, and I really appreciated that
yeah, that's
aspect of
beautiful. I
it.
love that, and
Um,
there's just so many great stories that are now available, but there's still not enough, and there need to
mhm.
be more, and I'm
Yep.
then wondering, I think that next leads me to thinking, what do you think are some narratives that are still greatly missing from mainstream media?
I do still think our media, while it is better, is still very much whitewashed
Completely,
across
yes.
all genres, and so,
Mhm.
like, continuing to highlight, like, Black, brown, indigenous
Yeah.
voices, um,
Asian voices.
Asia yeah,
They're like the least, shown on
and
television in America.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and highlighting those experiences and maybe, like, other religions as well,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
especially in terms I mean, for me, I always look at it like, of, like, give me some new queer content,
Oh, yeah, always.
but, like, the intersection all the different intersections, so, like,
Mhm.
race, gender, but, like, also, Judaism and being Jewish, they have very different takes on, homosexuality and queerness, and getting to
Yeah.
see how that, like, because 'cause they're accepting of it in really beautiful ways, and getting to see that played out on the screen, and,
Yes.
you know, also, I have seen some media of watching the struggle of, like, Muslim individuals who are
Mm.
queer and, like, how they're trying to bridge that, like, I
Yeah.
just feel like representation is constantly evolving, but the reality of it is we need less whiteness across the board.
Yes. And to know that that is not saying we don't want any white stories. That's not saying we don't want white
Right.
people to have these experiences, but it is
Mhm,
saying that historically and still currently, it is mostly what 90 plus percent of the white heterosexual cisgender version
mhm,
of life. And
yeah,
I hope that every person out there who's listening, if you do fall into that, what I just mentioned, the white cisgender heterosexual umbrella, which I know is the largest in terms of a population, I think it's important to remember that you have a whole trove of stories that you can always go to, and they're still be made, and they will probably always be the most dominant stories being made, at least in our lifetimes. And it's important to seek out ways of seeing the world differently. It's so
mhm,
important to get like that's the beauty of books and film and television and music is that we get to experience other lives from honestly the comfort of our own spaces
mhm,
and learn. And it
mhm,
makes me so sad when you don't see people want to find that out or they think it's a threat to their stance in the world, which is
mhm.
so I hate
Right, like,
that
it
sort of
doesn't for other people to get amplified doesn't mean you're getting less.
correct, and that what so that means
Like
that we have to continue to sit in our celluloid closets and basically
mhm,
just watch and continue to stay put? Like, why does one have to negate the other? Exactly. Like, we can all
correct.
fit here. I really enjoyed these conversations, Asher. I hope that our listeners out there, if there's anything that I would really want to encourage that y'all take away from today's conversation is to really challenge yourself to think about what are ways that you can broaden your everyday life with maybe different types of music, television shows, interests, things that are outside of your norm, things that maybe you've heard are really good examples of well written, well produced, well acted, whatever
Mhm.
projects that maybe you wouldn't have naturally sought out and haven't yet. Maybe this is your opportunity, your sign to check it out. And if not, if you do this already, then hey, maybe suggest these things to other people in your life. I think that that's the most important thing is let's support all storytellers as long as they're if they're good stories, let's support them. Like let's just make every good story have the volume of the mainstream stories that get told most of the time. That's my takeaway. What about you, Asher? Do you have a takeaway based off our conversations today?
I mean, I think the thing that would come up for me is like, I know I've historically been this person and it both good ways. And then you're like, oh my God, your Instagram story is so depressing. Like, and that's valid.
Correct.
But
So
like,
is the world.
if you're not sure where to start, that can actually be a really good place of like, who are
Mm,
you following on your social media? Like,
mhm.
are you kind of diversifying that? And that's coming from a place of like, I think this will be over by the time this airs, but like we're in the thick of the trans readathon where it's like
Oh,
a
I didn't
lot
even know about
of,
this.
yeah. And so it's just like 2 weeks in March where people are encouraging other people, and it started on TikTok to read
Mhm.
books by trans authors like
Oh, that's
across
great.
the spectrum. And so right now there's this flood of like, hey, do you know about these trans authors? Or if you're not sure what to read over these next 2 weeks, here's some suggestions. And like, and it's just kind of across the board, but it's a sharing of knowledge. And it's
Yeah.
that like for me is like, if you're not sure where to start, like look at your social media because you can Google like
Yeah.
who to follow within your interests.
That's true.
Like if you like hiking, it's like, you know, black hiking Instagram, like,
Yeah.
and that feels really basic, but it will give you pages and people to follow so that you get like other experiences. And then you might learn about, you know, meetups or,
Yeah.
books to read, music to listen to. Like I've learned so much new music from TikTok. Like
I bet,
it's
yeah.
been crazy. But I think that of just like cuz it can be
Mhm.
overwhelming and I want to acknowledge that it can be overwhelming of like
Sure.
I don't know where to start. Like maybe I want to step outside of my bubble and I want new perspectives and things like that. And that's a really easy one that you can do is like just follow some different people on your
Yeah.
Instagram or TikTok and just see what they're having to say and, like,
Mhm.
does what they have to say or what they represent line up with your personal value systems?
Or maybe teaches you
And
something new that you end up
yep.
adopting as one of your personal
Mhm.
values because
Right.
you feel it in your
Mhm.
gut like, "Oh, wow, that really resonates with me. I wanna continue having that be a part of my life." That's
Yep.
great. I love that. That awesome takeaway. Thanks, Asher. I really appreciate that,
I have my
and,
moments.
um, you have many moments. Okay, well, now we're gonna go to our little segment of secret questions,
Mhm.
and I am curious if you would like to go first, and if so, what is your secret question for me?
So my secret question for you, yes, I would like to go first, thank you for asking. Within the confines of what you're comfortable sharing,
Mhm.
what is something that people sometimes get wrong about you that they wish that they knew?
Ooh. Ooh, that's a great question. And, you know, and this is the hard part about like my brain is I for many parts, I mean, ugh, it's rough up here sometimes, is that it
Understood.
I know you do, is that there are times where I feel extremely known and think, "Oh, everybody knows this." And there are times where I'm
Mhm.
like, "Nobody knows me." Like very like emo, like
Dark Sean comes out.
yes, my Scorpio moon comes out. Uh, you know, I will say it probably I've had that most, I think, happen when it comes to my body size, is that I've
Mhm.
had people who I don't think really I don't know, I there's unfortunately this stigma that people who are overweight and obese as if, like, we're just these idiots that, you know, all we do is sit around and eat and not do anything, and we're just I don't know, slobs. Like, I feel like that's
Mhm,
just such a I mean, fat jokes are still very commonplace, and I'm not gonna lie, I
mhm.
do laugh at them because I am self-destructive. And so I'm just kidding. But kind of. Anyway, but I I think that that's something I have had happen is that, like, if I'm like, for example, in school, I remember we'd have to be in, like, small groups, and I would have people, like, afterwards come up to me and be like, "I didn't know you were gonna be like that. You're really you're you're really you're kinda cool." And I'm like,
Oh, we love a backhanded compliment.
"Yes, exactly." And I'm just like, "Thanks?" Like, I'm sorry
Mm.
I wasn't like, "Where's Princess Leia?" Like, I'm not goddamn Jabba the
Stop it.
Hutt. And so I think that that's the thing is that I think sometimes people obese people I've talked about this before. Obese people are often it's like the paradox of being so visible and so invisible at the same time is
Mhm.
such a thing that I've encountered. So just knowing that my I have lots of varied interests and that I have a personality, which I think, when people meet me, I think they definitely know that. But I think if until I speak, I know that there are probably people that, just make their assumptions, which I know we all do, but there's definitely something about the weight and obesity
Mhm.
prejudices that exist out there. Anyway, that was a great question. Thanks for that, Asher. My secret question for you is, and I really want to, give this preface, like this is supposed to be fun. So if anybody like takes I know starting out that way is always a great way to start. But Asher, if there is something in this world that is as close to something you worship, like you truly look at it as like the center of what you deeply appreciate, what inspires you, what moves you, is there a thing? Is there something you do, something you take in your everyday life or that you yearn for that sort of is your version, so to speak, of God?
I don't know about God per se. What's,
Sure.
like, kind of coming up is, like, more of the concept of, like, what I would consider my church to be
Mm,
now,
mhm, yeah.
and that would be, like, anytime water and nature is involved. More, like, landlocked bodies of water, so, like, rivers, lakes,
Mhm.
things like that, than the ocean, although the ocean does have its place, but I'm much more a mountains than an ocean
Yeah.
person. But anytime it's just where I feel most calm with the universe and most present and where like present with what's going on around me, present to be able to receive messages. Like if the universe is trying to tell me something or show me something, that's just where I feel most capable for doing that. And I feel really blessed to live in an area of the country that has a lot of that. Like where we
Mhm.
live, I live 5 minutes from the lake, and we live an hour from the first national river ever in our country. And so there's access to those things, but just being able to be present and something about water also is just very soothing to me, Cancer.
The
Like,
astrology sign.
yes. The water sign just runs like through
Yeah,
my veins.
it really
And
does.
but there's so many different aspects to it, right? Like there's the peacefulness and the calmness of it, thinking about the lake. And then there's the persistence of it, thinking about the river and like how it constantly flows and how, you smooth a rock, not with,
Mhm.
just persistently over time, like just that
Mhm.
constant flow. And it's just a place that kind of reminds me how I show up in the world. I don't know if that
That's
answers your
beautiful.
question, but that
Yeah,
would
oh,
be kind
absolutely.
of it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
absolutely answers my question.
Part of me wants to know what your answer to that question would be.
Ooh. I mean, the first thing that came to me, I'll just say real quick, I won't go into my usual Sean blah, 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 but is music. I mean, I think music is I will also say, like, water is that for me too. Like, I wanna live somewhere where I'm near, like, a large body of water. But, like, music, yeah, I think music is where I can feel I feel, I experience, I'm moved, I'm excited, it meets me where I'm at, but it also takes me places, and I
Mhm.
love that combination. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's
thanks for
beautiful. I kinda
asking.
knew you were gonna say that,
I mean,
but
I think that's we know each other well, even
we
though
do.
we haven't spoken in months. Um, So, all right. Well, now that we've done that, let's get into our shout outs. What do you got for your shout out for today's episode?
I feel like Elise has been doing a lot for me lately. Just
She's
like we've
always
done a
doing the
lot of work.
most.
I
Just
mean, she is really extra, but we love her for it.
yes, we do.
Um, but I mean, there's just some stuff going on in my personal life, and she's always amazing at showing up for me with that, and sometimes helping, even though I'm like, I just want to sit on the couch and not move, and she's like, do the thing. But doing the thing is actually what I need to be doing, and she's
Yeah.
very, very good at helping me kind of find that spark. But then also like just helping me do the things. But then
Yes.
also we've been collectively going through the process to be able to provide, continuing ed
Right.
credits,
Yeah.
and she's done like a lot of work, and we're kind of wrapping that up in a way where we're about ready to send it off, and I'm proud of her for that, and like she's done a
Yeah.
lot of work. So
Yeah.
little VC.
I love that. Elise is,
Mhm.
yes, she is one of those souls that truly tries to help as much as she can. I think I see that in her more than most, and that's such a great quality because I definitely don't always have that in me. Uh, I'm like, "That sucks
Yeah.
for you. Let me know if you need anything," but at least it's like at least it's
I think
like
that might be the one spot how Leo presents for me, because I do that too. Like, that sucks for you, but I'm gonna go sit on the couch.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, I'm here, but, like, I got things to do, versus Elise is like, "Oh, you have that going on? Okay, well, I'm gonna insert myself into your life and make sure that you know I'm here, and also I'm gonna help, even though it may not seem like it at first, but you're gonna really appreciate it at the end of it."
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. I love that shout out. Always a good shout out for our girl Elise. And my shout out is, as Asher said earlier in the episode, we are recording this on March 20th, and it is currently 90 degrees out, which that is not normal for Northwest Arkansas, or at least it wasn't for a long time. And so
Might be
anyway,
now.
right? Is that I am super grateful that after many, many issues with it, my landlord got a new AC and heating unit put in, and I did not have to suffer. Like, I have had many times when it just goes out on me, and I was really worried about it this week, especially knowing how hot it was going to be today and tomorrow. And so I now have this brand new, like, it's like, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like to cool down a house at a normal rate and not have to wait 19 years for it to get down to a normal temperature. What? So
Mhm.
I'm always grateful for air conditioning. I really want to give, like, whomever, I hope this person, maybe, probably, I don't know, it doesn't matter, but whoever invented the air conditioner, I hope you weren't problematic, and if you were, just know I did appreciate that part of you that wasn't problematic because it ended up helping all of us.
Mhm.
I just, yeah, God, that's something too, like, anytime I get sort of in my head about, "Oh, how terrible this is and terrible that is," I have to go, I have air conditioning and a roof over my head. Like, there's so many people who don't have that. That's not a given for them. And I definitely know that it's easy to take that for granted. So, anyway, my shout out's air conditioning.
Mhm.
Asher, thank you so much for joining me today, and for your first season 2 appearance on Collect Your Thoughts. I hope everyone out there enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, we would love it if you would like, subscribe, rate our podcast wherever you get podcasts. You can also find us on Instagram at Collect Your Thoughts Podcast and on YouTube at Collect Your Thoughts. And you can watch our full episodes plus other little bonus stuff on there. Anyway, with that being said, I hope everyone out there enjoys the rest of whatever their days ahead of them. And remember always to take a deep breath. And
Collect your thoughts.
that's right. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Bye.